So let's move on to the first of the five elements. That is, A stands for analysis, correct? So this is the element of planning devoted to learning about systems, environments, and goals. Okay, it is the stage at which planners seek to investigate and to understand what must be accomplished if successful adaptation is to take place. A typical product of the analysis stage in planning is a statement of problems and causes together with related goals. Okay, so let's move on to the next, that is strategy of the ASDL elements. Okay, so in this element, that is strategy, okay, in this element of planning, planners develop alternative ways to achieve goals. Okay, they create statements of cause and effect. If this is done, that will occur. In developing strategy, planners apply knowledge of theories and cause effect models as guides to action. These theories, often called theories in planning, may come from research or from experience and common sense. Sometimes the theories are clearly and explicitly used. At other times, they are hidden as assumptions underlying the actions that planners propose. Okay, communication planners are quite familiar with this aspect of planning, especially those, um, especially those where planners who deal with the design of messages to inform, instruct, or persuade. Okay, so telecommunication planners have theories about networks, information exchange, and so on. As systems grow in complexity and as their goals become more complex, the ability of theories to explain and predict tends to weaken. Okay, so the development of alternative strategies thus becomes important at early stages of strategy making. For instance, communication theory once told us that if we had the attention of a group of listeners and we gave them information in words that they could understand about a problem they were interested in, they would be likely to understand the meaning of our message. Okay, this is a relatively simple situation and a simple strategy. If, however, we are seeking to broadcast information to many different kinds of people with the goal of enabling them to change complex behaviors, which themselves are only partly understood, the situation becomes more complex. Theories and models offer less clear guidance, and alternative strategies become more useful. In the second level of strategy making, planners organize actions using these theories as a guide. They arrange means, for example, people, resources, time, in combinations which seem likely according to their theory or cause effect model to lead towards goal accomplishment. Okay, and they plan the mechanisms needed to make things happen. Now, this is often called implementation planning. Let's move on to the next part, the next element, which is decision. Okay, even with simple goals and systems, a decision is required to accept and carry out a strategy. Okay, in more complex systems with more complex goals, there are usually a number of alternatives to choose from. This choice may be made implicitly or informally, or it may be explicitly and formally. Okay, those making the decisions in the planning process apply a range of concepts and criteria. Okay, they think about the relationships between costs and effectiveness, sometimes formally and almost always informally. Okay, they usually seek to find the best or most cost effective strategy. They consider the probabilities of certain things happening. If they can truly consider all possible alternatives, they may be able to choose the single best one and optimize. Usually, this is not possible. The alternatives are too many to be identified. In this situation, decision makers satisfies, that is, they seek an alternative which is satisfactory at the time, even though the other better, if unknown, alternatives may exist. Okay. Values play an important role in decision making. They act as guides and limits to the range of choices possible. In other words, they serve as parameters. Often, the most effective strategy goes against widely held values and is therefore rejected. Okay, the way in which things get done can be as important from the point of view of values as the goal. For instance, the most effective way to prevent people from having unrealistic expectations about consumer products and to prevent expenditure on unnecessary items may be to strictly regulate mass media advertising and content, right? But this may run counter to strongly held values about the freedom of the press and of commercial enterprise. If so, some other strategy to reach the goal, which itself may be questioned from a values perspective, will have to be redeveloped. Okay, moving on to the next element, that is action. Okay, now the true test of quality of a plan comes through action in the real world, right? A key aspect of action is careful attention to monitoring of what happens. Not only do strategies receive a test through action, but new theories and strategies can emerge as things get done. It is this kind of reasoning, plus a desire to avoid waste of resources, coupled with healthy skepticism about strategies, that leads to pilot projects. Correct? Moving on to the next part, that is learning. Okay. Planners need to learn about two basic aspects of their work. Okay. Firstly, how well did planned action work? Okay, in answering this question, planners seek to assess the effects of planned action and relate these to the strategy. In the best of all worlds, this assessment will deal not only with what happened and what did not happen, but also with reasons why and why not. Second, in assessing the effects of a planned action, the planners will reach some judgments about the planning process itself, right? So the basic question is, how can our planning be improved? So learning of both types is essential if planning and planned action are to improve over time. Okay, so now to summarize this part, okay, we have defined planning as the conscious effort to adapt a system to its environment in order to achieve system goals, right? Systems as sets of interrelated components working together to achieve goals are arranged in hierarchies or Chinese boxes. Yeah, remember the boxes? Systems are defined by their purposes. Okay. Consequently, what is included within the boundaries of any given system is a function of the goals for which it is created, and thus of the system perspective of planners. Systems exist in and must adapt to environments. The characteristics of systems must be adjusted so that the system provides benefits of value to the environment in return for resources. Successful adaptation requires planners to develop system goals for future environments. Accomplishment of these goals contributes to the constant change that characterizes environment and the ways in which systems adapt. Key factors in the environment are resource needs, other systems, values, and social image. The conscious effort to achieve successful system adaptation is the core of the planning process. The planning process rests on the use of rational thought and the application of knowledge to system adaptation. 5 elements of the planning process, as we have identified, are analysis, strategy, decision, action, and learning. What do we call it? ASDAL. Correct? Now, these elements are thought to be found in planning of all kinds, though not necessarily with the same degree of emphasis, and certainly not always in a linear, step by step way. Correct?